hearing aids were first invented, they were considered a great step forward for the hard of hearing. They were certainly better than nothing. But early hearing aids had many frustrating limitations that left users unable to hear clearly in certain situations. Today, advances in electronics have created all kinds of new possibilities in hearing aid technology. Here's a look at what's available.
Back in the early 1950s, your choice of hearing devices was awfully limited. Today's hearing aids are smaller, sleeker, and smarter. Almost all are digital and come in a range and styles.
It's got a little string on it for removal because it goes so far into the ear canal.
From tiny ones that fit completely in the ear canal to a more visible model that sits behind the ear. For millions of seniors with hearing loss, these advances in technology offer real hope. About 5 years ago, Paul Hoemeke tried his first hearing aid, one that he inserted completely in the canal. It just didn't work for him.
I found when I spoke with it in, it was like keeping my finger plugged in my ear. I had a very hard time adapting to it. In fact, at the first 6 months, it was set on top of my dresser as much as it was in my ear.
Let's talk a little bit about the type of hearing aid that would work best for you.
Now, thanks to the variety of available devices, Paul's audiologist is able to suggest a solution.
So the one that you're currently using is this completely in the canal model right here.
I can hear with it, but I don't like it.
What I recommend for you to try next is what's called an open fitting, which is something that looks like this right here.
The latest models use digital processing and directional microphones to provide more natural sound.
I think you're going to like this one. Let's give it a try. Put it on your right
Paul
ear
finds
here.
that the new hearing aid minimizes background noise in loud situations.
I hear the conversation that's going on in the group that I am with in a restaurant or something like that, instead of hearing the conversation 4 tables away, as I did with the other one.
Another new technology is the ear-to-ear, or E2E wireless system, for people who wear 2 hearing aids. It enables each hearing aid to analyze and interpret the sounds coming into it, and then share that information with the other hearing aid, mimicking the way your natural hearing works.
Previously, users had to operate each instrument independently, left ear and then the right ear. With Accurus, with E2E wireless, users now have the ability to touch one instrument and control both.
This kind of technology works well for Julian Owen, who has hearing loss in both ears.
In the short time that I've had them, I've noticed a lot of things that I probably haven't noticed for a long time. And they're very natural. These are part of my life.
Technology still can't restore a person's natural hearing, but equipped with the latest devices, many seniors find that the world is coming through loud and clear.
Joining us to talk about the latest developments in hearing aid technology is Dr. Sergei Kochkin, Executive Director of the Better Hearing Institute. Dr. Kochkin holds a PhD in industrial psychology, and he previously served as Director of Market Development and Market Research for Knowles Electronics Incorporated. Welcome to our show.
Welcome. Thanks.
Tell me, what is the Better Hearing Institute?
Better Hearing Institute's a not-for-profit, 501c3, Form 1973, to educate the public, medical profession on hearing loss, and then to promote the value or benefits of treatment and hearing loss prevention.
We talked in the package about digital hearing aid technology. What is it and what are the benefits of that?
Remarkable things have happened for people with hearing loss. Remember, all the way back into the 80s, people forget, they didn't have MP3 players and they didn't have disc players. And now it's commonplace. You know, people walk around with an iPod with able to play 4,000 to 5,000 songs for hours. Well, the revolution that has occurred in consumer electronics has also occurred for people with hearing loss. And now, if you take a look at this pinky fingernail, we now have a computer the size of a pinky fingernail with millions of transistors. So you have to understand, behind the scenes, dozens and dozens of mathematicians and engineers have designed circuits so smart that they can do with sound, which was impossible 10 years ago. As an example, 10 years ago, When sound came into a hearing aid, the amplifier would just amplify it all. And now with digital technology, sound comes in and is broken up into many, many, many bands mathematically. It is then manipulated mathematically.
So is this what you refer to as directional hearing aids?
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But for digital is you now have the capability of taking sound, breaking it up into discrete frequencies, determining like a computer would, and remember we're doing this at the rate of millions of times per second, trying to determine, is this noise, is this speech, is this too soft, is this too loud, but doing it exactly where the person has the hearing loss, so now we can finally program hearing aids to compensate for a person's unique hearing loss.
Okay. And
at the same time give them sound quality which is comfortable and not a verse that you would have seen 10, 15 years ago.
So then where does the directional hearing aid come in?
A directional, very, very important, because research has shown right now it is the only solution for people with hearing loss to understand speech better in a noisy situation. The way it works is you have two microphones in there, and there's a phase delay in terms of how sound comes into that hearing aid. But what's really cool, the engineers that designed this stuff, is when the sound comes in, what it does is it blocks out noise more behind your head, and some of them are so smart they follow the noise source and cancel it out so that you can focus on the person in front of you who's speaking.
All the new technology is just amazing. I know there's something, it's the in-your-ear canal, new technology that's really quite deep in your ear, so it's unobtrusive. But is it as high quality as the former hearing aids were?
Well, all present technology, from that little tiny, completely in the canal, which is less than the size of a dime, that completely fits into the ear, to the ones behind the ear, all have the same technology with one exception. It's the larger hearing aids, or the behind the ear, or we'll call the full concha that you saw, are the ones that are directional. The ones that are completely in the canal, you can't fit two microphones in there.
Is that suitable for everyone, the in-your-ear canal hearing aid?
It's the type of hearing aid that a person is fit with is based on the uniqueness of their hearing loss and based on their listening needs. I've seen people come into an audiologist's office and say, "Oh, I want one of those invisible hearing aids I saw on TV."
Yeah.
It's the wrong approach to it.
Clearly, if you have a loss of hearing, it's, you know, even if you have a hearing aid, it may not be helpful in all situations. Tell me some tips that someone with hearing loss can use if they're in a very limited area where they can't hear so well.
Let me give you an example. I was watching this woman get fit with hearing aids, which had the directional capability, and her husband is with her. What the husband doesn't realize is, you know, normally you go into a restaurant, and if it's a booth, where does the woman sit?
Inside.
The booth. Where does the guy sit? Outside. On the outside. If the woman has a hearing loss, guess what happens? The woman sits on the outside, the man sits in the booth, because remember, it's blocking out, it's not amplifying sound behind her. And so the tip for people to enjoy a restaurant situation is the person with a hearing loss sits with their back to the noise source. The worst thing you can do is to sit in the middle of a noisy Italian restaurant and say, "My hearing aids don't work, this is horrible." No, you find a place where you optimize the listening experience. This goes the same thing for a cocktail party. You don't plant yourself in the middle of the party. You go into a situation, you know, preferably the person you're speaking to is against a wall or in a corner, but with not a lot of other people speaking behind them. Your goal is to isolate the speech source.
Very quickly, tell me a little about the coverage for hearing aids. Does Medicare or Medicaid cover this kind of technology?
Medicaid do not, and that's one of the most frequent questions that we get is, how can I get help with financing for hearing aids? And there's a number of them, and so I've focused on trying to find those resources. Those are on our website. We also have it in our literature.
Yes, I know you brought this book. Thank you so much for being here. This is great information. We appreciate your time.